I'm really delighted that we have in person with us today Andreas Schleicher, who is the director of the Directorate of Education in the OECD. He has been an enormous supporter of and a source of encouragement to us in the project. So Andreas, can I invite you maybe to come and say a few words, if that's okay? Thank you. Thanks.
Shalom and very warm welcome from the OECD as well. What an amazing event, and I want to thank our hosts in Israel for providing this amazing setting for what is our first global forum meeting after this pandemic. And I'm saying this not just because we are hosted in the beautiful city of Jerusalem, which Mayor Leon just introduced to us, but also because we're going to connect with some of the most innovative and creative thinkers and doers in education, in the education space, right next door at EdFair here. This is Startup Nation. And you know, that startup spirit is what we need most as we recover from the pandemic. You know, this is not the time to build back better. It's the time to build forward very differently. And nowhere can this be done better than here. This is also all what our Education 2030 project really is about. That's why we need all of you, the innovators and the game changers, to make real change happen. And real change often happens in deep crisis. Globalization and technology have connected cities, people, continents, and they have vastly increased our individual and our collective potential, but they have also made the world more volatile, more complex. That's basically, you know, we're seeing this growing disconnect in our world between the infinite growth imperative and the finite resources of our planet, between the financial economy and the real economy, between the wealthy and the poor, between that concept of a gross domestic product and the well-being of people, between what is technologically possible and the real social needs of people, between governance and often the voicelessness of people. I don't want to hold education responsible for all of us, certainly not, but we should never underestimate the power which the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes and values of people have to shape the world around us, the social, the cultural environment in which we live. Now, culture is not just inherited from the past, it's created by what we do every day. That is why this work, Education 2030, is really so important. Sure, you know, globalization, digitalization have had hugely disruptive, you know, impacts on us, as did have the pandemic. But the implications of those disruptions are never predetermined. It is always the nature of our collective responses to disruptions that is determining their outcomes. You know, the interplay between the technological frontier and the cultural and social and institutional agents that we mobilize in response. Now, in this world, education is no longer just about teaching people something, but about providing them with a reliable compass and the tools to navigate with confidence, you know, through this world. Now, success in education today is about building that curiosity, opening minds. It's about compassion, opening hearts. It's about courage, mobilizing our cognitive, social, and emotional resources to do something. And surely those are going to be the best weapons against the biggest threats of our times. You know, ignorance, the closed mind, and hate, the closed heart, and fear, the enemy of agency, which is the heart of the learning compass. And in due this amazing orchestra of stakeholders, starting with students, educators, experts, you have been able to co-create that learning compass as a response. And Susan, you have been such an amazing conductor of this orchestra. In whatever country you go these days, you know, the learning compass is shaping the discussion around the curriculum because it provides a framework in which stakeholders can organize their thoughts and their actions about the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values that we need to develop to help young people build their future, not our past. And now, at this meeting, is the time to put that learning compass really into action. And this is the right place to do that. Now, this is also why this meeting marks a really important transition point. Now, it's time to consider the learning environment, the spaces, the people, the time, the relationships that put that learning compass to life, in different places, in different cultural contexts, in different countries. And then, of course, we need to consider the people. You need to enact those learning environments, students and teachers first and foremost. And the work organization, the structures that will support those people. Some call this the teaching compass, but whatever you name it, it's going to be this broader ecosystem, of spaces, people, time, technology that will make this learning compass real. And you, the members of the multi-stakeholder groups, are the engineers of that ecosystems. And finally, you're working on these very important questions on how we can make the fruits of the learning compass visible. Perhaps one of the greatest mistakes that we made in education over the last centuries is to divorce learning from assessment. We're asking young people to pile up lots and lots of knowledge over many years, and then one day we call them back and say, well, tell me everything you know in a 1-hour setting, in a very constraining, contrived environment. And that has created many, many disconnects in our education systems. Now we do have the opportunity to bring learning and assessment back together. And actually right now, after this session, we're going to see an amazing example of how new technologies can help us to reunite learning and assessment. And finally, I'm also glad that we have put the topic of curriculum, flexibility, and autonomy on the agenda. That's probably the truth test for any curriculum. Can you adapt it? Can you make it flexible? Can you make it responsive to the real needs of real people? Now, life is always what happens when you're very busy making other plans, and no one knows that better than our friends in Israel here. Now, many of you are also working hard to welcome and accommodate refugees these days in Europe. They are from Ukraine in these days, and there is a very important role for you, the Global Forum, as well, to help countries devise and adapt curricula to welcome those people, make them part of your countries, by also, helping them keep and build the bridges to connect back to their country when the time is right. Many OECD projects have been very, very active to support that process of integration, and I really hope that Education 2030 will make a difference too, that questions about curriculum design, flexibility, and autonomy will be very central to this. And I have no doubts one day these young people are going to give back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Suzanne Dillon, and a welcome to Dr. Andreas Schleicher. We are so happy and privileged to have you here with us. I think, Dr. Dillon, you would like to say something else in addition. The stage is yours.
I really wanted to just thank my team. I never expected to have a team to help sharing, but they are wonderful. A teacher and a student. Can it get any better than this?
Thank you.
So thank you. I should have done that right at the very beginning, and I omitted it. So thank you very much, and
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. It's an honor.